It is one hot night out here in New York. I am sweating. Must be like something like 95 degrees or something out here, and the humidity is killing me. Even my camera right here has dew all over it. The telescope, all wet. I'm still waiting for it to get a little bit acclimated. Although I do have the dew shield on it, as you see right here. So tonight I'm going to be shooting M92, and that is in the Hercules constellation. And it's not the Hercules cluster, that's something else, that's M13, but it's M92 in the Hercules cluster. So I'm hoping to make this a quick one, maybe like 4 or 5 hours, and let's get started. Okay, so we just finished polar aligning, and that seems to be all set as far as that is concerned. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go finish this. We're gonna go preview, and there we go. So what I'm gonna do is now just go to M92. First of all, let me choose my USB drive, and then I'm gonna go to M92. And you could probably hear my telescope slewing right now, and maybe see it, but I'm gonna go stand over here so you can see it better. Okay, so we are just validating. Hopefully the clouds don't come out tonight, and it's a nice night. This is my second night, by the way, of shooting this, so I've already collected about an hour and 15 minutes of data. Tonight we're probably looking to get maybe another 2 hours of this, and then maybe a third night. It is getting late, so it really doesn't, the sun doesn't go down here until like 10:30 really. Astronomical's over at 10:30 usually, where it's dark. So okay, there we are. On my screen, I have M92, and that looks beautiful. I love it. That's a 10-second exposure. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start our guiding now. And, you know, I just saw a video recently from Peter Zelenka that says that you should be doing your guiding another way, besides the way that I do it, you know, going to the target and then doing it. He said you should be going to the meridian and doing it, but I've always done it this way. Maybe I'm not getting the best guiding. Maybe I should experiment with it more. I'm not too sure what I should do, but this is the way I've always done it, is I go to the target and then I start my guiding. So I'm going to go to my auto run right now, and I'm going to check out what we have. Right now it's only one luminance at 300 seconds, which we don't want to do. I want to do a red, and we want to do 60, and we want to repeat it 45 times. Then I want to do a green. I want to do 60. And we want to repeat it 45 times. Okay, and then I want to do blue, and I want to repeat 60, 45 again. Okay, if we get this done tonight, I'll be happy. So, let me see, 60 seconds, that has to be 60 seconds. And then I'm going to do luminance, and we'll do 60 seconds as well. And what I want to do for this is probably a lot more. You know, normally it'd be 180. I only have 15 right now, so I guess 165. That's a lot of luminance. I don't know if I'm going to do all that, but you know, I'm going to do this for at least another night, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so the guiding seems to be going well, and we are going to start the auto run, and let's just stick around for the first image to see what happens with that. Fast forward this. All right, so we have just finished with the autofocus, and what I'm going to do now is just check my guiding to see how much I'm dithering. Go to my guiding advanced settings. So I got two pixels and 5. Usually I go a little bit more than that. Let's just go 5. And then let's do it every 5, because I'm only doing 60-second exposure, so every 5 minutes I think is good for me. All right, we've started the process. Let's just stick around for the first one, and then I'm gonna head inside and catch some air conditioning, because it is freaking crazy humid out here right now. You can probably see all the sweat on my face. I even had to do a change of clothes before. It's crazy. It was just so uncomfortable. But hopefully I could go inside, sit in the air conditioning, play some video games, or watch the Mets lose, and then we'll be on our way. finishing this night off. Okay, there's our first exposure, which is the red. And let me just check the star size, which is a very healthy 309. Thank you, God. All right, so we'll be back out here later to check on things and see how they're going. Or maybe if I could do all that from inside, I'll do it there. So we just wrapped up here, and somehow I lost my connection for a second, but we're all good. I've moved the mount back to, or should I say, yeah, I moved the mount back to its home position, so we're ready to take the telescope off. We got about 90 subs tonight, about 60 seconds each. We did both the red and the green channels. I'm still gonna have to do the blue and the luminance, but that's probably another night just to finish that off. And probably not gonna do another video for another night, but I'll see you when we edit this and we have all our subs, and I'm gonna go through step by step of how to put M92 together. So I'll see you then. Okay, so we just finished up M92, or at least as far as I'm gonna get with it. I took about 4 hours altogether, and we just had our last clear night just a few nights ago. From what I see on the weather forecast, it's gonna be cloudy for the next 10 days, so I don't think there's going to be many more shoots, or at least not in the near future that I know of. So I guess we're stuck with this 4 hours that we have. So I shot an hour of red, an hour of green, an hour of blue, and an hour of luminance. I wanted another 2 hours of luminance, but that just didn't happen. So we're running WBPP, the batch processing right now in Pixinsight. And I'm not going to bore you with that part of this whole thing because, well, it's boring and it takes a while. So, you know, I'm going to wait for that to finish. But once we finish with that, I'm going to get into processing M13 in Pixinsight to show you the way that I would approach this. So hang tight. We'll be right back. So I got these all on my screen. This is straight out of WBPP and Pixinsight, which was their own stacking software that can be found under Script, Batch Processing, Weighted Batch Pre-Processing, or WBPP. That's what a lot of people call it. And that's what I use to stack these, and this is what came out of the stack. These are the auto-cropped versions that came out of the stack. I just figured just to avoid the dynamic crop and get these going, might as well use the already cropped versions. I've already named them appropriately with B, G, R, and L, so you know which ones are which. Well, first off, I'm going to do a dynamic background extraction on each of these to start. So I'm going to go to all processes and dynamic background extraction. All right, so let me start with the blue one. I'm going to refresh this, and I noticed this little piece up here on the blue. I don't know where this came from, but when it all merges together, it's going to look a lot better. But this is going to become a lot more obvious once I get in there. So I start off with just doing about a tolerance of 2. If you could do a tolerance of 1, which it looks like I could probably do with these ones, it just depends on how many light areas you have here. So, I mean, this really, again, this just depends on how many gradations you have in your image and what the tolerance should be for those gradations. If you have a lot of them, you're probably going to want to increase your tolerance. In this image, the gradients don't look so bad. In fact, I don't even really see a lot of them, but we're just going to remove them anyway. So I'm going to go to correction, subtraction, and I'm going to hit discard and replace target image. As far as my sample generation, I'm going to choose a 50. And what I'm going to go, and this basically defines how big each of these little squares are. I'm going to plop one of them right there. And you could see if I wanted to make them to 75, they'd be just a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to plop these all over my screen here. As you can see, try not to get them on stars. Luckily, around the edges, there is not a lot of stars here because they're all in the center in a globular cluster. And try to get them on all different kinds of color background, like the grayish, this darker area over here, because that's what really helps drive dynamic background extraction. Okay, I think I got enough squares there. So what I'm going to do is take this, an instance of this, and drag it out here so I could save it and apply that to some of my later images. So let me hit execute here. And Let's close dynamic background extraction. And there we go. And again, you can see this little piece right here that I don't really love, but we'll take care of that later. All right, so I'm going to open it up again, and this time apply it to this one. And we're just going to do that over and over again here until we have a DBE applied on each of these. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to do is do Noise Xterminator. I'm going to go to Process, Deconvolution. I mean, not Noise Xterminator, Blur Xterminator. I get them all mixed up all the time. So this is Blur Xterminator. This is a paid plugin. I think it's about $100. If you don't have it, you need to get it, because after you see what it does to this image, you're going to be like, oh my God, I need to get that. Now, there is a traditional way to do deconvolution without using Blur Xterminator and Pixinsight, but it is very, very complex and time consuming. So this is a one drop, you do it and it's done. But before I start Blur Xterminator, what I need to do is get my PSF diameter in pixels. And I don't want to use the automatic PSF. So I should have to find this myself. And the best way to do that is to go into Script, Image Analysis, FWHM Eccentricity. What I'm going to do is just measure this, and you're going to see my number is 4.759. So that's like 4.76. So yep, there we go. We already kind of got it in. I guess I had this. Okay, now let's just take a look at before and after on this one. Now look how big those stars are, and look what Blur Xterminator does to make them just really tight looking. It's kind of awesome. So what we're going to do is also apply Noise Xterminator to this, which is another paid plugin by the same guy. So if you don't have either of these, I would just buy all of them because they're great. They make very complicated processes a lot easier. Time is valuable. It really is. You shouldn't be wasting time doing things in these programs if it's just not efficient. It really shouldn't. So again, for this one, I'm going to be opening up FWHM Eccentricity. Let me go to Image Analysis. Let's do that. The pain in the butt part about this FW is you got to open it every time and close it every time. Talk about efficiency. It's not the best in that department. So I'm just going to follow the same processes that I always have and continue with this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Channel Combine. I'm going to go to All Process, Color Spaces, Channel Combination. What I want to do here is combine my red, green, and blue. So we'll get our first RGB image right here. Click this, and there we go. Now let's do an auto stretch on it, and there we go. That color kind of looks unnatural. So what we're going to do is go into Process, open up our screen transfer function. We're going to unlink this. And there we go. There's a lot of, well, unnatural color in here. And that's why we're going to run a Spectrophotometric color calibration on this. So I'm going to go in here. And the great part about doing, using Pixinsight's processor, or I guess stacker, is that you don't have to run an image solver script because it does it for you when it puts together all of its images. So that's pretty cool, right? So for this, I'm just choosing my filters. I'm choosing red, green, and blue. I have a whole video on spectrophotometric color calibration, which I could link down below. But for now, just choose whatever filters you use for the red, green, and blue. And also what I'm going to do is just choose a very dark area, or at least a somewhat dark area here on my area. And I'm going to choose region of interest from preview. And there we go. And I think we're done. So what we're going to do is just apply this, and let's see what happens here. Okay. All right. So we could delete that preview now. We don't need that anymore. And of course, this looks weird. What we got to do is now link it again. Once you do your Spectrophoto, you got to link it all. We still have some green in there, and I'd really love to use James Lamb's modified SCNR, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to stretch it now, and we're also going to stretch our luminance as well. So I'm going to turn off the auto stretch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Process, Intensity Transformations, Generalized, Hyperbolic, Stretch. Now this doesn't come with Pixinsight, this particular stretcher, but it is a great plugin. If you just Google it, you could download it for free. It is open source. You could definitely use it. So I'm going to show you how I use this and how. First thing I'm going to do is just zoom in so I could see my, let me see if I get to 300, maybe 400 zoom in here. And what I want to do is start with a symmetry point, which is always going to be, let me see, can I make this bigger? Which is always going to be just a little bit here to the left of your histogram. So I'm going to go right there, and I'm going to hit send to symmetry point, and I'm going to open up a preview just like you do with any stretch, and I'm going to pull this all the way out, not that far out. Let's just pull it somewhat out, and then I'm going to use my local intensity, and you can see I got something here, so that's nice. So I'm going to push this in and refresh that, and now I think we could zoom out a little bit and maybe zoom in a little bit more, but maybe not that much, maybe 30, 20, somewhere around there. Okay, so now I gotta choose another symmetry point. And basically to do that, what I'm gonna do is zoom in on this just a little bit here. I'm gonna click on an area that I'd like to bring out more, maybe somewhere around there, and hit send to SP. And I don't see it, so, oh, it's all the way over there. Look at that. And I'm gonna repeat the same thing. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to repeat the same process, and we're just going to get it. I don't want to blow out the middle. That's very important to me. Okay, there we go. This works really well using this type of process over histogram transformation when you got like something like a galaxy or something with a very, very hot metal, you know, that's super bright. This process works a lot better. So I'm going to push that through again. Reset it, and let's go here. Let's zoom this down, and again, I'm gonna look in here to see like another area that I want to bring out more, maybe with some faded stars over here. Okay, I'm gonna send that, and let's do a preview again. You can see I already went too far. I don't want to go that far. Just want to do a little bit here. Let me just get this. Well, it's kind of like a tug of war between these two sliders. Okay, I'm going to apply that, and let's refresh again. And here we go again. So you're going to need like a few stretches here to get all of this out. I'm going to click there and hit send. And once again, let's do this. And we're going to bring it up a little bit, not too much. You got to be very careful. You don't want to blow it out. Oops. No, I moved the wrong thing. I want to keep my symmetry point there. I'm just playing around with the symmetry point. Okay. I'm going to refresh, and I'm going to close this. And I think that's about as good as we're going to get right now. What I'm going to do now is go into some curves transformations. Before we do the curves transformation, we need to stretch this Luminance file. I'm not going to bore you with that. We're just going to fast forward through this. Hang tight. And what we're going to do is now just combine this using RGB or LRGB. So I'm going to go to Process, All Processes, LRGB Combination. All right, I'm going to minimize this luminance because I'm going to drag it into here. I'm going to uncheck RG and B. And what we're going to do here is just take our luminance image and we're going to layer it on to the RGB image. And I'm just going to call this RGB just to make it easier so we know what that is. And I'm going to check chrominance, noise reduction. That's important. Make sure you uncheck your RGB. Make sure you just have luminance and then drop it on. And there we are. Now let's just take a look. Probably didn't make that much of a difference, right? No, it didn't. It's funny, it almost feels like it's worse, but I think the luminance does make a difference. You know, I kind of like it more controlled like this, where I could see the stars in the center. I don't like when you can't see the stars in the center. So before, I think it felt like a little, yeah. So it feels a little bit more, I guess, controlled right here. Okay, so now that we got everything in place, what I'm going to do is go to intensity transformations, curves transformation, and what we're going to do is just kind of bring, you know, make it a little bit darker, but also take these dark area and bring that up a little bit, just to bring out some more stars in the center of this. And then I'm going to, highlights I don't want to touch because it's so bright there in the middle. So it feels a little dull though. So it's like it's just dying for more contrast. You know, I want to just make this bigger. I'm dying for this to be a little bit bigger. Unlike Photoshop, Pixinsight does not fill your whole screen. So it gets a little bit annoying in that sense. I think this is looking good. I feel like we're pretty close here. Let me see what else I want to do here. So let's run a sharpen on this. And what I'm going to do before I do a sharpen is I'm going to actually, I have these range masks over here. I am going to just put this range mask on here. So this is kind of, I'm going to invert it. And what I want to do is just make sure the background does not get sharpened at all. So I'm going to take off that mask. And again, I don't know how I did this, but I made it smaller again. And what I'm going to do is go to script, or I mean process, intensity transformations, and let's go to local histogram equalization, which will sharpen this image. Now, I'm just going to preview this here. So we got 100. We got it at a contrast. I'm going to bring it down to like 1.4. I don't want to go that crazy, and maybe a 0.8. And that's it. Let's apply that. And that's going to make a pretty big difference. Like, you could tell how much that sharpened the center of this. Okay, so I'm trying to think of what else I really want to do to this. I feel like I want more stars and I want to bring more out of this, but I don't want to go too crazy. So I'm just going to stop here. And I think that's good. That's where I probably would want to stop. So let's get this back to normal size. I'm going to export this. I'm going to save it as a M92, and I'm just going to call this version 4. It's a TIFF file, 16-bit. And I'm just going to bring this into Photoshop really quick. I know, Photoshop. Who wants to use Photoshop? So I'm going to go to over here. I'm going to bring in my pictures, and let's just bring in this M92 version 4. And, you know, I think maybe here we'll eliminate some of its dullness here. And it's just a little bit easier. Not really easier, but a little bit easier. Give it a little bit more contrast because it is dull, you know. You know, one thing I didn't do that I totally forgot to do in Pixinsight was a saturation. So I think we could add that here, and we'll just do vibrance here, and then we'll just do some saturation just to give it just a little bit touch of saturation. It actually looks kind of good without the saturation right now. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to use Topaz Photo. Okay, so why don't we just create a new layer here, which kind of puts everything on top of it. And then we're going to go to Filter, Topaz Labs, Topaz Photo AI. I don't know if I'm really saying that right. This program could really work wonders, though. I know some astrophotographers are like, oh, I don't like it at all. But, you know, it does do some really nice stuff. I mean, look at the difference in this. And look how clear that looks in the middle there now. We could use a sharpen. Sometimes I want to do that. Sometimes I don't. I don't know. This is like really kind of controversial to use the sharpen, but it really does bring out more of the details just a little bit more. Let me see. I'm just going to kill the sharpen. So now we only have the denoise, and The next thing I want to do is just scale this. I know that sounds even funnier. These images are like only 2,000 pixels, so they always feel, you know, just too small. So might as well scale them. And Topaz is really good at scaling images. I mean, extremely good at scaling images. Okay, so let me see. I'm still at the smaller image, so I don't know what they did here, but maybe it just didn't do it. I don't know. But anyway, that's the video. That's how I process my images. And, you know, I'd like to hear from you if you guys have any better tips of how to get more stars out of there. This was only 4 hours, so it wasn't a lot of data. I assume that if I had more data, I'd probably have a better core in there, better, even all those stars are bright. I don't really know. You know, sometimes, you know, at what point are you, especially with globular star clusters, is it just a losing game, right? Like, if I take 4 hours, is that enough? Is 10 hours going to make that much of a difference? I don't know. I did 10 hours of M13 last year, and I thought it actually came out pretty good. So I don't think it was a total waste of effort to do 10 hours, but you never know. But anyway, that's it. And I hope you found this good. I'll talk with you soon. Bye.